Welcome to Ankh-Morpork Historians Guild. Today we'll be reviewing the book Lords and Ladies by Terry Pratchett. My name is Purtis. I use they, them pronouns.
And my name is Mulch. I also use they, them pronouns.
My name is Chio, and I use she, her pronouns. I'm not sure if "review"
Yay.
is, like, the correct term, is it's more like discussion than review.
I
I
put
I think we
discussion
do
and
an
review on the
awful
titles.
awful lot of review of this book.
We do both. We check both
Yeah,
boxes.
if
Um,
you haven't read the book, you probably shouldn't be listening.
Yes, I feel like we just have to say that as a disclaimer every fucking time. I'm going to assume you've either read the book or given up on going in spoiler free. In our defense,
yeah,
the book is, I don't know, 20 years old, so you
yeah.
had your
You had
opportunity.
plenty of time. You had
Yeah,
plenty of time.
this is really your own
Um,
fault.
yeah. So this is a kind of odd Terry Pratchett book for me because it's like it starts really slow and like I was like passively enjoying it, but not really invested until the last 3 hours, which fuck so hard that I cannot remember the rest of the book. Like
Yeah, it's actually insane how good the ending of this book is. It's honestly so good that it improves the rest of the book retrospectively. I was not into this book pretty much until the last third, at which
Yeah.
point it absolutely popped the fuck off into such a degree.
As
Um,
soon as Magrat starts killing elves, you're like, "Oh, I'm loving this."
yes,
No, I'm beginning to think you 2 have a different relationship with this book
Mhm.
than I do.
Probably. I mean,
It's
we
like,
normally do,
it
let's be honest.
yeah,
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 that you 2 have tastes that are so similar.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah,
Uh
for sure.
But I do agree that the final third is, uh, the best part of the book.
Mhm.
I
yeah,
also, like,
yeah. It's
don't
insane.
see that there as being, like, a steep disparity in quality as you 2 do
Mhm.
between, like, final third and the rest of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If he had not pulled off the ending, I would not have enjoyed this book. Is really where I was at. Like, I can see some of the appeal to the beginning of this book, but it's really, really slow, and it
Mhm.
treads the same ground a frankly really weird amount of times for a Terry Pratchett book. Maybe
Uh-huh.
it's my own exposure to like fairy mythology, partially from Terry Pratchett himself, but none of the like, elves are evil part was like particularly interesting or funny to me, and it's what takes up a lot of the beginning of this book. Um
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
New Variance is not very interesting. Um and he also takes up a lot. You know, I did really like some of the early scenes, but they were often so short that they didn't drag me through. Like I really liked the scene where Granny battles the young witch.
Mhm. Yeah, that
Oh,
was
yeah,
pretty great.
that's
That's
one of my favorite scenes in the books.
yeah, it's quite fun and I really enjoy it. But it had like a crazy amount of run up that didn't feel necessary and it was kind of slow and it just didn't drag me along like I would traditionally expect a Terry Pratchett book to. Now, this does go with the heavy caveat that, like, Terry Pratchett just is a fucking genius and a better writer than most people. So it's
He
absolutely
is a
true.
very good writer.
It's absolutely true that if that had been in any other book, I would have really enjoyed it. Um, but for a Terry Pratchett book, it was not blowing me away.
Mhm. Um, man, wow, I just had something and then completely lost it. I'm very out of it. Sorry, guys. I might not. I
I
I'm
I
I've
admit
been
I'm a little
like
out of it too.
Yeah, I've been, like, schooling I got up at 7 in the morning to school, and
Oh,
then,
no, horrible.
um, but, like, I think this book is definitely a lot more enjoyable if you have the perception of like, if you're not as familiar with the, like, evil trickster perception of elves. Um, like, if your perception of elves is mostly, like, Tolkien-esque, you know, that kinda thing, then, this this book might be more fun because it's giving you a new perspective on these creatures. I did also think it was funny that this, like, one of the Terry Pratchett essays we read talked about, someone, like, told Terry Pratchett that, what was the quote? That his books wouldn't sell well in, uh, the US because you couldn't hear the elves sing in them, which is a nonsensical line to me, but, like, Terry Pratchett was apparently really mad about it because this book is all about how elf singing is awful.
That's really funny. I totally forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's also to like a ridiculous extent that I am familiar with the idea that fairies are bad. Like, I deal a lot in odd religions, and like, my house has magical protection in 3 religions against fairies because people who have lived here have been so afraid of fairies and elves.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
By people, do you mean the previous inhabitants or the current inhabitants?
one of the other current inhabitants.
Oh.
Not to out my partner. Um,
Um, gotta
so,
say, I'm a little surprised you guys like the Magrat stuff as much as you do, because remember one of our arguments about Witches Abroad was specifically about Granny Weatherwax's treatment of Magrat.
oh, don't
I
worry.
mean,
Yes.
people in Magrat specifically, and I vigorously defended that, and I stand by that. I like it when Granny Weatherwax is girl boss and horrible. Um, but this book, one of the things that, like, I remembered after I read it that kind of soured it to me was is the book where Granny Weatherwax's treatment of Magrat really gets to me.
Yeah,
Granny
and
Weatherwax's and Nanny Ogg's treatment of other women um make me feel
Granny Weatherwax specifically is like really crosses a bunch of boundaries with Magrat, and the story kind of like brushes it off. And that's what stuck with
yes,
me until the reread.
do not worry.
which
I hate that so much. Do not
like,
fucking worry. I was absolutely going to get into how Granny Weatherwax treats Magrat like a fucking child and totally
yeah,
tramples over her personal life and totally tramples over her kind of ability to operate because she thinks she's right. And I was absolutely going to talk about how Nanny Ogg is just fucking horrible to every other woman, seemingly because Terry Pratchett has a minimum quota of internalized misogyny he has to put in each of his books, and Granny Weatherwax was busy.
yeah.
Uh,
Like,
it's like, it makes me very upset.
yeah, like, and that is a good point, is, like, the reason
With me,
Granny Weather like I was already primed for how Granny Weatherwax treats Magrat for this book because it really bugged me in Witches Abroad, and I was, like, expecting it and prepared for it. It still really bugged me, like, so much trouble could have been avoided if they just explained to her what was going on with the elves. Like, there was literally no reason for them not to explain it to her. Like, they think she's gonna think elves are good and, like, mess everything up. Maybe just tell her what is going on. Like, it is so simple to just tell her what is going on.
you
Like,
know, it strikes me as being especially weird that Ordinarily, in a story like this, the ending theme would come down really hard on a "Hey, this is why you need to communicate" type note or theme, and this
Mhm.
story kind of, like, doesn't do that at all. It's
Yeah,
weird.
like, the end note is actually that, "Hey, it's okay that Granny Weatherwax crossed this boundary, because she's dead now, and it's fine." It's like
I mean, it's even worse than that. It's like not only is it okay, it's actively still good, especially the like
yeah,
marriage letter thing.
yeah,
That was, like, the
That's
worst.
fucked. Like, you know, for those who
like
fucking didn't, who gave up on the fucking book, like she writes a letter to Varence telling her, like, just being like, fucking marry her. Don't even give her the choice. Stupid
yeah,
ass motherfucker.
yeah, which
And it's like,
Gra
whoa.
yeah, Granny Weatherwax writes that letter, and the result is that Varence, who respects Granny Weatherwax a lot, doesn't even ask Magrat to get married. Magrat comes home, and he's just like, "Yeah, we're getting married now. I've planned the wedding." Um,
Sent out the invitations.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think it was even worse. I think the letter says, like, just don't even ask her.
yeah, it does, it
It
does.
specifies that he should, yeah, not.
It's
Yeah,
fucked. And, like, it is important. And, like, Varence isn't great. And they haven't seen each other in,
Oh,
like, a
yeah.
while. And their romance wasn't great before either. So, like, that is all true, too.
uh-huh.
Oh,
um,
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of this early book is, like, Magret gets mad at Granny Weatherwax and is like, I'm done being a witch, I'm gonna start being queen early, I'm gonna move to the castle," and then just finding out that it sucks, like, being to be queen just sucks, and she doesn't like it, and, um
Like, specifically, I thought the fact that she, like, got really mad and got really angry was good because that is something worth getting really angry about.
yeah.
yes. Yeah.
It was better for me in this narrative than it had been in Witches Abroad, partially because Magrat gets legitimate time to be really upset and ways to express it.
Yeah.
Like critically,
Yeah,
when
Um,
she
that's
learns about the letter, she fucking locks herself in the room and she's fucking pissed and like is ready to leave.
my counter would be that it is worse because the narrative excuses a far greater violation of boundaries.
I
Um
think I think that's a
It's
good
like
point. I would
it's
say Witches Abroad also
it's
bugged me
one thing
more
to be
than
an
this one, but,
be like
like
I mean, I think it is one thing to be kind of a jerk to somebody, is another thing to like and for the narrative to be like, yeah, but what you gonna do? That's how they are. And another thing for the narrative to be like, it's a good thing actually that you just had your boundaries totally violated and that the you have like wildly disrespected you.
yeah,
yeah,
I think that this just comes from a disagreement on how we read Witches Abroad because I felt in Witches Abroad they absolutely overstep boundaries and the narrative treats it as actively good. Consistently and without showing the like level of devastation those actions tend to cause.
I think it's just like a disagreement on that point.
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so too. Um, because yeah, I feel and felt very similarly to the meddling that Granny does in Witches Abroad as I do here. The only difference is that a lot of the meddling is being done to one of the characters that we can see instead of like a side character we interact with.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Um,
guess, but like I
I will
think it's
say
like meddling is also a lot weirder and more specific in this book. So it feels like a thing that the narrative is going out of its way to do and then to excuse, which makes it stand out and be like way weirder to me.
mhm. Um, I will say that other than the Magrat stuff, I found Granny Weatherwax way more likable in this book than in Witches Abroad. Like, because the rest of her narrative, she does actually question some of that stuff that she was so, like, she has moments of self-reflection that are, like, which she just did not in Witches Abroad. Like, she's going through a really hard time in this book, so she's actually, like, reflecting on how she treats people just a little bit, like, which Witches Abroad did not have at all.
I mean, how much does she actually reflect on how she treats people?
I
I
felt
mean,
like
when
a
she
lot. Like I agree with most of it.
yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of self-doubt, but there's less, like, it's not really specifically self-doubt about how she treats other people.
I mean, she did say to Nanny Og at one point that she treats people badly, like, close to, like, when she first thinks she's gonna die. She does have like, 2 conversations with Granny Og Nanny Og, I think, where she and in the first one, I think she does say that she does, like, bulldoze over people. I'm trying to remember the wording, but I can't remember, for
She does
certain.
not say that she bulldozes over people. Uh,
Do do you either
Cole
of you remember what it was in the first conversation like that?
I'm trying to
and
remember.
she does say that she's losing her touch. That
Yeah.
back in the old days she would have thought to just ask people, or rather than jump to the
Yes. That is what I'm thinking, is that she was saying that she doesn't communicate as well.
that is
Um,
one way to interpret that conversation. I mean, I'm not disagreeing that the human vulnerability was interesting and good.
mhm, yeah.
Uh,
'Cause it's really the first time we see that from her, um, is, it's the first time she's been a vulnerable character, um, which
Yeah,
I found really interesting.
I enjoyed
yeah.
it too. I think she was way better in this book, and it was partially because she doesn't interact with Magrat very much.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
her interactions with Magrat are so much worse.
Yeah, I mean her interactions are bad. Um,
Yeah, I
Granny is
guess
like
the
kind of
big
a
thing
bad
I can't
person.
get over is just how, like, weirdly specific it is.
I guess I don't really like. I totally get where you're coming from, but this feeling that you're feeling now is why I didn't like Witches Abroad.
No,
Is
no,
this
how shall I
cruelty
put
that
this?
she goes about doing, and
It's not
like
cruelty. Like, just abroad, it was more like fast paced and super comedic. And it also felt like more like non-specific cruelty. Whereas this one, it's not comedic. And it's also like very, very specific and a weird thing to go out of your way to write and then explain why it's not a problem.
That's true. I definitely agree with that, except that the fact that it was comedic in Witches Abroad actually bugged me so much. Like,
yeah,
like, it bugged
See,
me
I
more
will
that it was
excuse
comedic.
a lot of things if I think it's funny,
it just wasn't that
if
fucking
it's
funny.
entertaining.
That's what got me is it wasn't
See, that's
funny.
where we disagree.
It kind of
Yeah,
just like
yeah, for
sucked
sure.
shit. She just sucked shit. It wasn't very funny.
Um, yeah,
Yeah,
I feel
God, we have
like
very different Granny Weatherwaxes.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
I'm also wondering if it's like maybe because I read the witches books first.
mhm.
It's like or like read them really fast in succession because I've always known that like being horrible to other women was a big part of like Nanny Ogg's character. I'm just now realizing that you other two didn't realize that, like didn't
I mean,
register that.
it's very briefly mentioned in other books, but it definitely was more obvious in this one. Like,
Oh no, I have a cat crawling on me.
I can tell the sensory experience was really quite bad.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, notably, I just didn't read like fucking any books with her as a main character. I didn't really like the witches books. I kind like saw her and I read obviously Tiffany Aching, which is very different. And
Yeah,
and
I
I
did
like
not read the. I read the witches books growing up. I did not read the Tiffany Aching books growing up.
which is fucked up because that's the time to read them. But
yeah,
also the Wee Freeman is bomb, but
yeah, the Tiffany Aching books were big childhood books for me. Like, I was really into them as a kid.
absolutely. And Granny Aching
Yeah.
in those books is like very, very different. She's much quieter. I don't know. She feels older in a very positive way. And like she can be rude or abrasive to Tiffany, but because Tiffany herself is so strong-willed, it balances out. It doesn't feel like bullying as much as it does with a character like Magrat or Esk.
Yeah.
Odd. I do not like the Tiffany Aching books, and I don't particularly like that version. Well, I wouldn't say that I dislike the Tiffany Aching books, which is like not super into them, and I do not like that version of Granny Weatherwax.
Hard disagree, but I respect you.
Like, I find her way less interesting, or like, I guess that I take Granny Weatherwax being kind of nasty as being part of her character. Like, what makes her fun to read about.
Yeah, she's just a lot like my mom. Like, you really can't stress this enough. I've fucking lived with this lady. I left, and I don't really want to go back, so
Yeah.
I definitely have like a stronger emotional reaction to the scenes in which Granny Weatherwax is cruel, because I know there's cruelty from the other side, and I know very well its consequences.
Yeah.
And I did like this book more, really, because Magrat got to be fucking mad about it. Like, it's true that in some ways the narrative forgives her. It's also true that Magrat is still sore about it, even when Granny Weatherwax is dead. Even though she like kind of writes it off. She isn't like completely like, yeah, it was totally good and fine and cool and good. And
I mean, the narrative writes it off pretty thoroughly.
I mean, I'm actively disagreeing with it. And like, I do really appreciate that she got to be so mad and she got to throw a tantrum, basically. And then she moved on and killed a bunch of people, which is what I always wish I could have done.
Yeah. Yeah. Magrat, like, fucking snapping at the end was great. Like, just getting, like, the fact that her whole, like, badassery at the end was just fueled by her rage at Granny Weatherwax was, and like that's been building up this whole book, was neat to me.
I liked
Okay,
it.
so now I guess I have a better grasp on why we have such different relationships with the book.
Yeah. Um
But again, I did find that beginning part slow. I didn't like it that fucking much. It really treads the same ground over and over again. And until she snaps and starts killing, it doesn't really pick up for me. Just a lot of bullshit happens. Like, a lot of early signs, a lot of building up that just didn't feel necessary, except to pad out the length of this book.
Yeah.
Um,
No,
couple
yeah, other than
some good
I mean, there's a
jokes,
few
some good jokes,
yeah.
some really
Yeah,
good
there
scenes, but nothing that really blows me away.
I guess
yeah.
another problem I have with it is that I've read the later Witches books, and I know that this is the point where Magrat stops being like major character.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, she gets married and she basically dips, right? I don't remember her after this.
Yeah, and that also bugs me. I guess
Yeah.
like part of it is broader contextually. Like I really don't like the idea that she just like stops being a witch after she gets married.
Yeah.
That's
No,
the
I
book
didn't
that starts being a thing, kind of.
I thought she was still a witch in later books, but she just didn't do a lot. Like,
I mean, kind of. I mean, she's sort of in the next book. Like, they actively start kind of like looking for her replacement.
mhm.
yeah.
She kind of like, she's sort of like honorary witch in later books, but not really.
Mhm.
I guess like
And
some of the Magrat standing up for herself stuff in this book feels like little hollow because I know what's going to happen next.
yeah.
Yeah. And I've never read Masquerade, which is the next one. And
But yeah, if Masquerade's the next one, then like Magrat just straight up is not witch anymore.
Mhm.
yeah. It's not that it doesn't seem to be the absolute next one that she appears in at all, but it's the next one where it's witches focused.
Yeah.
She makes an appearance in Carpe Jugulum.
Yeah.
There we go. Jesus, that was hard for me to say.
Yeah, I haven't read either of those yet. So I'm interested to see.
I like vaguely remembered Carpe Jugulum. Nothing matters because
Mhm.
I've blacked out because I just realized the next book is fucking Men at Arms, and
Oh, Men at Arms
I
fucks
actually like
so
already want to
hard.
be done discussing his books just so you can go and read Men at Arms. But
I
oh,
love Men at Arms.
yeah, dude, I'm ready for
Men
that
at Arms
shit.
is a book
Yeah.
I like more every time I read
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good opinion.
it.
That's a good ass book.
Yeah.
Um,
So I guess I really don't like, at least in Witches of Broad, she was like full on member of the team, a full
mhm.
on character. This book, I guess like because I have that context, she's going to get like written out. This for me is the start of when she starts getting written out, and they're building like the groundwork for writing her out of the book.
Yeah, writing her
Yeah.
out is one way to think about it. I do like it as like a phenomenal ending to her career as a witch and like her start as a queen. Like it is a baptism by blood that I really appreciate. Because like I could definitely tell that she is like settling into her position as like a queen, and queens always become background characters in Terry Pratchett books. But even given that, like it didn't feel like writing her out as much as it felt like just giving her an ending.
Mhm.
And it was one that I really, really enjoyed. Like again, this finale is phenomenal, and her snapping is phenomenal, and I liked her being separated from the other witches because when she's with the other witches, she just acts as kind of like a straight man foil to them, and it is not interesting. And she doesn't get to be like a likable character. She doesn't get to have things that she's really good at because the others are just better than her.
Mhm.
And they tell her so all the time. And I liked seeing her um, struggle against being a queen. And Terry Pratchett's very funny idea that like being a queen or a king kind of makes you a bad person and kind of stupid, which is a thing that he cannot resist.
Oh yeah, that's the thing that comes out a lot, and one of the reasons I don't like the Tiffany Aching books.
I mean, it's really funny that this man who like definitely writes good monarchs a lot, also fundamentally understands that queens and kings are like bad things to exist in the world. It's really fucking
Mhm.
funny. It's really, really
Yeah, but
funny.
it's weird that he writes that as like individual failing and not like systematic. I don't know, but
No, I think he does write it as systematic. I think he does write
I mean,
it.
sort of. But
I
he
think
also
he
writes it
points.
as an.
I think he points often to the
Uh,
fact that her having power and just being able to do things to the people around her is what lends her to cruelty. And you know, that's true. That's part of why kings and queens are evil. And like I do
I guess I'm
enjoy that.
thinking about like weird way that like there is a character inside of the Tiffany Aching books who is a different character in every book of the series, like a completely different character, and that's like a lot of the supporting characters in the Tiffany Aching books. They're like she's a strong and consistent character, but none of the supporting characters are, except like Granny Weatherwax, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll just get into that when we get to Tiffany
Yeah,
Aching.
I haven't read
It'll
them
be a fucking
recently
while,
enough.
yeah, man. Also,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
far as I remember, does the first Tiffany Aching have any characters from before? I thought
Tiffany
it was
Aching
like
has a lot
almost
of running
completely.
characters. Or like Tiffany Aching series has a lot of characters
Not
who
the
have
series,
the
the
same
first one.
names as like previous characters in other Tiffany Aching books, but they do not have the same personality as those characters from the
Yeah,
previous
but
books.
does the first one have like
Yeah.
Oh,
um
characters from other Discworld books? No,
Oh, okay.
not
Okay.
really.
That's what
I
I
was
thought.
talking about the way that the Tiffany Aching book has like running characters, but they do not have consistent personalities from book to
yeah,
book.
we'll get to that. Yeah. But I do like kind of returning to an earlier point, I do think that Terry Pratchett's relationship with kings and like monarchs is really interesting. Like because it's true he does seem like he's contradicting himself. Like he's got such a split opinion about it that it like that duality shows up in his work in that he writes good like he has veterinary and he has to kind of a lesser extent uh what's the king in this book's name
Variants.
Varence, yeah, where they're both like he clearly likes them a lot um as characters and like it's and like wants them to be good at their jobs at where well at the same time he sort of knows that kings are evil and these positions of power are shouldn't exist, but he's also kind of into it, like
Yeah, not only
So
evil
the
but
thing about
stupid.
veterinary,
Stupid is what I really
veterinary,
like about Variants and how he changes Variants.
mhm,
yeah,
He's like kind of dull.
veterinary, a major point of the guards books is that veterinary is not a king; he is a dictator.
he's a
It
triad.
is really interesting the
Yeah.
way that Terry Pratchett writes that.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah,
um
Lord Vetinari is a hilarious character because of that absolute duality which exists within him. Like he's a totally evil dude. As most and he has like these major flaws like most of the kings in Terry Pratchett books, but he's still very much like Plato's philosopher king. And like obviously we're about to hit Men at Arms. It's going to be pretty Vetinari comes up.
Which is very exciting.
Yeah.
yeah, I do. Now that I think about it, I do think Varence's character is very interesting in how it's different from uh Weird Sisters, just because you're right, he's much stupider in this book. He was such an intelligent character as a fool, and like just like he delivered some of the rawest lines in that book. Like he was such like his dynamics with the king of the time at the time were so striking and like disturbing, and just like how intelligent he was really interesting, and in what way. And he's a very different character in this. Like he is,
Yeah, he is a totally different character.
yeah.
Yeah, I know you were criticizing Terry Pratchett for doing that in Tiffany Aching. I'm like, he does that constantly. It is his jam to just like change a fucking character or whatever. What do I give a shit?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I
Oh,
will note that like the Witches books have consistent characters or characters who are consistent from book to book. I feel like in the Tiffany Aching book, the only character who's consistent is Tiffany Aching herself.
mhm. And Granny Weatherwax, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, generally, I find that he
And
only
Granny
tries to keep the primary, the main characters, like super similar, um, which I think is part of the reason that like the Guards novels do so well. So there's more primary characters that stay consistent.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. God, the that just reminded me of how different the wizard dude is, the one who turns into a zombie. Like, just such a completely different character in his own book.
Yeah,
In
and I
There
mean
is like
that
an
happens a
in-text
lot.
justification. There's an in-text justification for that.
Yeah.
Yes, the
There
only
is.
time when mischaracterization has an in-text justification.
It totally is something that he does a lot. I don't really mind it, because these books are you read them out of order. It's very very rare
Yes.
for somebody to do what we do.
Yeah, but you're supposed to read the Tiffany Aching books in order.
I didn't.
Aren't you?
I didn't.
Like, oh.
So, I mean, you sure can if you want. I don't think it matters. Like, I don't think you need to. I think the
I
Kevin
think
Paul.
it matters with the Tiffany Aching books,
I
but
mean,
we'll get
again,
there when we
I
get there.
didn't read them in order and did not have a problem with it. They're still some of my favorite books. I don't think it matters that
I guess
much.
I'm also like the last Tiffany Aching book was one of the worst Terry Pratchett books I've ever read. Bird's Crown, but I Shall Wear Midnight is one of the worsts.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever read I Shall Wear Midnight. I don't think I got there.
It's
When I was
very
a kid.
memorable because it's kind of the one where he sort of forgets that Tiffany Aching is for kids.
Mhm.
So it's like kind of incredible, like one of the goriest and most brutal of the Terry Pratchett books. Of the
Uh-huh.
ones with the worst ideas. Not as bad as
We'll
Equal Rights, but like
we'll get there.
Yeah.
yeah, get we'll get there in like 10 years because
Oh,
it's
Yeah.
one of the final books.
yeah. I mean, also the Tiffany Aching books weren't published as for kids.
They weren't? I thought
No.
they were like Amazing Maurice.
No. They weren't. The first one was like more marketed towards kids, but after that
It was
they
definitely marketed towards kids. I remember it like being specifically categorized in his like the Terry Pratchett books like lists of Terry Pratchett books as being for kids.
I mean,
It was like given the same like I was given like the same cover and like the same artist who did the cover for Amazing Maurice who didn't do cover for any of the other Discworld books, did the cover for Tiffany Aching, and it was like the same size as Amazing Maurice. and
The
like
same size as Marissa?
okay, size is a stupid point, but it was like given very similar
And Paul Kidby did the cover,
covers.
same as all the other ones.
I mean, I remember that the Discworld books in general had like an object in the center of a cover. It was like on a background that was a solid color, and then it had the title and the author name. Honestly, it looks very similar to the Carl
I mean,
Hyacin book covers in the US.
there
Whereas
are multiple covers for each book. Like
Yeah.
I'm
the We
specifically
Free Men.
remembering the one that was marketed while we were kids that you would walk into Barnes and Noble and buy.
I mean, I have my copy.
America.
And I have my copy. It has the Paul Kidby cover.
And I Shall Wear Midnight. I mean, not I Shall Wear Midnight. We Free Men and Amazing Maurice had very similar covers that also looked radically different from any of the other Discworld books.
Mhm.
Yeah, we
I
yeah.
don't know. Well, we're
We'll
this is not
get
the
to
book we're
it. Yeah,
supposed to be
we
talking
cannot
about.
possibly be talking about this book anymore. My my copy of We Free Men has a Paul Kidby cover. All
Yeah,
all of them do.
I'm looking up the covers. There are 3 main covers. One of them is Paul Kivay. Uh, I just could not remember how to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
But then I'm
And
seeing 2 other main ones.
and yeah. I double checked while you were talking about the cover. I Shall Wear Midnight was not published as a teen novel or a kids novel. It's just published as a fantasy.
Okay.
I think that like We Free Men probably was, and I do remember it being marketed like that. But I Shall Wear Midnight, they had basically dropped that by that point.
Yeah.
Um,
Makes sense.
And I know for sure they dropped it by the release of The Shepherd's Crown, because I was at the release of The Shepherd's Crown. Yeah, because that was a everybody thought he was going to die that year. He didn't.
Yeah,
died a little bit later. Okay, we haven't talked about the book that we're reviewing in kind of a while.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess I don't find it like that interesting to talk about in part.
Man, yeah, I am trying to think of more things to talk about it with it, but like because we haven't talked about much about why the ending was so cool.
Yeah, we haven't talked about the ending at all. I was saving it, so
yeah.
I would quite like to.
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit, because we've talked about a lot of bad things, and we should probably talk about the good things about this book.
I mean, we're inherently deeply critical people, Michi and
We
I.
are.
True.
You, Mulch,
Well,
you're
okay.
so kind. You
I'm a
put up
very
with us
negative
all the time.
God, you're not my most confrontational friend.
Really? Once upon a
Maybe
time, I would have been.
you
Some
would've been,
days you
yes.
fucking are.
Some days you still are. But I do. My old partner, who I'm not going to say the name of, does.
Yep, that's who I was thinking too.
Does take the cake for it right now.
That is true. God bless
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. But yeah, the ending for this is cool. It is very like once the elves actually get through and invade, after so much setup for them getting through to invading, like so much setup.
A really an absurd amount of setup. 5 crop circle scenes, fucking 8 scenes at the goddamn stones, like fucking talking about them 6 fucking times. I really cannot
Yeah.
express how repetitive the setup for this really felt to me.
Uh-huh. Um, but once it gets into the action, like, we have, you know, cool climactic scenes for, like, Maigret, for Granny Weatherwax, who, like, actually sort of loses for the first time that we've seen from her. Like, she survives, but she does kind of lose. Like, she has a, like, last stand, uh, type situation. Um, but, like, in a cool way. I really liked, I loved the Nanny Og Casanova stuff. Casanunda
Casanunda,
stuff.
so important.
Um, very important.
A short joke.
Um,
It's a good pun. It's my favorite.
yeah, yeah. Um, like like that uh, like they go on a dinner date, and like it is so good. It is just like I I'm Casanunda now.
from
I feel the emotions that Casanunda feels.
for
I can relate so
perspective,
hard.
for
I can
perspective on
relate
the
so hard.
scene to anybody who might not have read it, Casanunda is being affected by elf magic to like fall in love and like be wicked romantic with Nanny Og. And so they have this like very good scene where Casanunda is sitting there watching Nanny Og eat and just being like, "This woman is so beautiful. The way she rips and tears into the oysters, completely unaware of how to eat them, is so incredible. The way she just bashes into stuff and like it's genuinely extremely good and extremely heartwarming. Um, but it is kind of a joke.
I actually did not register elf magic being involved at all in
Elf
that. I
magic
just
was
thought,
not involved.
Elf magic was
yeah,
involved.
No, it
was it?
wasn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Because he was horny for Nanny Og and like Witches Abroad.
No, no, no. So he's definitely normal horny to some extent for Nanny Og, but all of the witches are trying to the elves are trying to disable them with their loves, and they're acting stupid. Like their partners are like being oblivious to kind of the
I
nasty and weird things happening around them, uh, because of the
but
elf magic.
I
That's this.
thought the
It's
singing.
happening with Ridcully too.
Well, man,
Uh,
I didn't think that was it. That was elf magic either.
that wasn't elf magic either.
Yeah, I
I
don't think either of those things was elf magic.
He's literally just having a midlife crisis. Well,
I,
a
I, I
midlife
think I
crisis.
think he is having a real thing, and then that it's made worse by elf magic, which is why he like teleports away her like that and
I
fucking
thought
kills
neither
the
of those
person.
things. I
No,
thought
Um,
he
neither
was.
of those things was elf
I
magic.
don't think
Actually,
any of that is textually supported. I
I think
think
it
he was
is.
just being a fucking idiot.
No, I totally read it as elf magic. I totally read it as things that they naturally desire to do, further influenced by the elf queen to get the witches away from the party so that the Morris dancers could do the play which would summon the elf queen back into the world. Because if the witches had been there, they would have stopped the performance.
like that would make
Uh,
sense. I just
I
don't
don't
think it's
think that
true.
actually happened. Yeah, no.
Like I think it was just like bullshit coincidence. Like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's how I read it.
yeah, yeah. And I respect you. I and it would make sense if that was how it happened. I just don't think
Would make
they
sense, but I'm pretty sure that's not
but
what
I
he
just don't think
did.
it was how it happened. But either way, the date scene is very good. And then like them going on an adventure to find the queen's husband is very good. Uh
Oh yeah. Liked the
like
long man,
yeah. Big dick man. Huge fucking massive dick man.
horned man.
um. Okay. Anyways, lots of all that set up. Magrat pops the fuck off. All the people are rallied for some fucking reason around Sean. Hearn the Hunted has been called. I don't know.
For some fucking reason, by which you mean Nanny Og.
Yeah.
Nanny Og showing up and saying, "Hey, you might die if you fight the elves. If you don't fight the elves, I will kill you. You
I
will
mean,
You have to deal
die."
with me. I mean, like, it wasn't "I'll kill you," but it was "You will have to deal with me." Like,
yes. Still not convincing enough for me personally. But anyways, I don't
yeah,
know.
I do think it would have
It
been more
might.
believable if it was Granny Weatherwax. Like, I do think it would be
She
more
was
believable if it
busy.
was.
Yeah, she was
Yeah.
busy.
Yeah.
I mean, Nanny took
Will
over a
note
lot
that
of
I am
Granny's
very
roles.
susceptible. I am very susceptible to peer pressure. So if like everyone else decided to do something, I would probably just go along with it.
The amount that I would
Yeah.
just fucking ditch is incredible, y'all.
Yeah.
Anyways, I don't. The ending for this book is so phenomenal because it feels like one of those optimal Terry Pratchett endings, where 100 wild and chaotic things come together in this phenomenal crescendo. All of these pieces that he put together and he set up reach their logical conclusion, rushing in like a phenomenal clap, and then somebody makes a really grand speech with a perfect point and what the book has been working through this whole time. And it isn't enough to win alone, but it's enough to matter. And it's enough to make somebody else matter too. And then they win. And that is just the epitome of perfect Terry Pratchett endings. And this one hits it so right. Granny Weatherwax's mental face off and her speech against the Elf Queen is like touching and fulfilling and exciting. And it continues to work when she dies and when Magrat fucking just smashes the Elf Queen in, which isn't easy for her to do either, but which matters too. And like, it's phenomenal. It's really perfect.
Yeah. There are also little bits that I really like when Granny Weatherwax slaps the Elf Queen.
Yeah.
Like when the Elf Queen is all like, "I'm going to reduce you to this gibbering mad woman, but I'll leave like just enough of you left to see what's happening to you and what you've become, not enough so that you can actually do anything about it."
Yes.
Granny Weatherwax just walks up and slaps her and says, "You dare say that to me, an old? You say that to me, an old woman?"
Yeah. It's phenomenal. It's really good. Ugh, yeah. I don't,
Yeah.
this book is really interesting. I definitely wasn't with it for the first audiobook wise 6 hours. Um, it felt like just another witch's story that didn't really excite me and didn't have a lot to say. And he totally fucking turned it around. He fucking switched that shit on me so hard. Um, and it had a lot to say and it did a lot with it, and I was really glad for it. Yeah. I don't know if we had that much
Yeah.
to say about this book.
Yeah, they're solid.
Yeah, it's a solid book.
Yeah.
It's a good one. It's not like the best he's
Yeah.
ever done. It's solid though, and the ending is phenomenal. And the ending is characteristic of Terry Pratchett and of his writing
Mhm.
and of what he seeks to do in a lot of his books.
Yeah.
And it's one of the
So
first endings where I really felt like his characteristic valiant hero speech right before they fucking get shit on happens in like a really great way. Like it kind of happened in Guards, but not to the same degree. Um,
hmm
and it is like my favorite thing that he does.
Yeah. Um,
Okay, so where do you want to put it?
on the
Uh,
list. Oh, I
I'd
just
say
realized
that
I'm.
I would.
yeah, let me pull up the list. Let me look at it
Yeah,
again.
I realized I'm looking at my own list instead of the group list. Let me
Be
see if I
fucking
can.
real that that's the only list that matters in this godforsaken world.
It's true.
Let me
I
put it
say
on
that
my own
specifically
list
because,
first because it's going to be vastly different. Um,
yeah,
I would place this on the group list number 4. Small
I would place
gods.
it way below Weird Sisters. Like, it is a much worse book than Weird Sisters.
Yeah, I didn't like Weird Sisters as much as you. I'm not. Yeah. Um.
I would
So
also put it. I'd put it right below Weird Sisters.
you do right below
Um,
Weird Sisters number 5.
yeah. Uh, just the villain scenes in Weird Sisters just struck me so hard. Like, um, that and like stuck with me so hard that it's still I still like it more um
Yeah,
than
the
this one.
villain in Weird Sisters I think is way better.
Yeah, the Fairy Queen isn't really a like she's a concept. And she's an interesting concept, but uh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, not nearly as much as Duke Felmet and his wife.
hmm yeah.
Would you put it above Moving Pictures, or were you agreeing on number 5 then?
I'd probably put it above Moving Pictures. Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
it better than Moving Pictures too.
Yeah. But
Um,
yeah.
just because the
See,
ending
a
is
big
so
problem for
good.
me
Like
is
I
like
like the average pace of
is
Moving
Moving
Pictures more.
Pictures is above Witches Abroad, which to me is fucking
Yes.
crazy.
No, that's good and right and correct.
That is correct. And you're wrong and should
No,
feel bad.
I
Yep.
mean, you
You have
fucking
had
care about any of the characters.
you have had so much effect on our personal list. Light Fantastic is sitting at number 9 right now. You're represented. This is our win. Witches Abroad is below Moving Pictures.
Which is weird because, like, can you remember any characters in like Moving Pictures outside of Gaspode?
I fucking love Gaspode, but I also love Ginger and what's his face?
You? Yeah, see, what's his face?
What's his face
What's his face?
is boring, and isn't like a huge amount of a character, but I don't dislike him. And it's so critical to not dislike a Terry Pratchett protagonist. Because if I dislike that motherfucker, holy shit, I hate him. Because Terry Pratchett writes such convincing characters.
Mhm.
Mm,
Which is the
who
problem
are
with
the
Witches Abroad?
characters?
Which is
Who are the
100% the
characters
problem with Witches
in
Abroad.
Moving Pictures? Are the characters in Moving Pictures convincing though?
Yes. Next question.
Really?
Yeah. We did a whole episode on this fucking book. I feel I've made myself clear. Is it his best book?
Yeah.
Is it his best book? For sure, no. But it's got a lot of funny references, a lot of funny characters that I really enjoyed, some cool
It is funny.
moments, and weird. It's funny. It's so funny.
Okay.
And Witches Abroad isn't. Witches Abroad is
Okay.
fucking annoying. Uh,
Isn't broad fucks, and you guys are
it's
just
better. Hey,
weird
it's
and have
better than a
bad things.
lot of the other books on this list, but it got outbased.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
next up is Men at Arms.
Oh, I'm so
I'm
excited.
so excited for Men at
Excited for
Arms.
Men at Arms. Holy shit, y'all. Yeah.
That book, again,
Fucks.
I know I've said this
Absolutely
like 5
fucks.
times. Every time I reread it, my regard for it rises.
hmm Yeah.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm really excited for this one. I really love the guards. I really like veterinary. When we get to Night Watch, y'all, it is over for us.
Ooh, Night Watch.
Oh yeah, Night Watch. It's a long time, but we'll get there one day.
Yes, we
Um,
Someday.
will.
of note, Men at Arms is now the 15th book. We will be in the middle section of this man's career, which is
Wow.
the part where I start to know what the fuck is going on.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Because
Still feels like we're really early on into his books.
I mean, it's
Yeah, we're-
incredible how much his writing voice has evolved across these books. The difference between, like, Lords and Ladies is not my favorite book, but the difference between The Color of Magic and, like, Fantastic to Lords and Ladies is incredible. And his ability to work characters and work these environments is just incredible. He has gotten so much better about it, and it's clear that he has um such a improved idea of what he wants to be doing with Discworld and what he wants to be doing with the stories he's telling here. It's really touching.
Yeah.
Really really fantastic.
Yeah.
How
And
many how many Discworld books are there?
41 will be on 15.
Ah,
Yep.
gotcha. See,
So not,
when you said the middle section, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. It's not perfectly even.
yeah. We're to the like middle third or something.
Yeah,
We're in the middle third.
we're in the middle section. Yeah.
Yeah.